So you've talked a lot about at various times different practices that really improve management decisions and employee workflow in the gardens. What are some of the things that you've identified that are some really useful practices for cultivators to know?
From a management perspective, I'd really like to discuss how to successfully start the day on a really positive and constructive note, and how to be organized to lead your team appropriately throughout the day. And really, it centers around two main principles, which would be having a central point of organization, which can be a whiteboard and calendar combination, but then also how you approach those conversations and interact with the people when they come in for the day.
What are the most important components of that interaction in terms of giving employees an idea of what they're going to be doing for the day, removing ambiguity, and any of the other key considerations you're thinking about going into that?
I think the first one is kind of the old school management principle of, well, you leave things at the door. I think we've always had a different approach on that. It's our responsibility to try to help people get in the work mindset for the day, and not necessarily leave it at the door, but just start the day with a positive attitude. So the first thing is always, when you're welcoming people and getting to a central gathering point, is asking about how they're doing, trying to figure out their frame of reference and where they're at, and kind of being a chameleon for each individual person and getting them into that work mindset. And then I think the bulk of the work for the manager and the supervisors either starts at the end of the day or before the beginning of a new day, which is then actually filling out the whiteboard and going through those operational steps that do happen before the people walk in for the start.
So when you're going to fill out that whiteboard at the beginning of the day, what are the things you're thinking about as these are the important things that we need to cover today, just in terms of broad and general strokes?
Egan at some point is going to get into this in some of our other episodes, which is how the days are literally organized. But at some high level, there's typically a production schedule, a master calendar, a schedule that's governing what's happening every day for years or in perpetuity for a facility. For us is the first step. And so the first thing we go to is, okay, there's maybe a dozen major horticultural tasks, from pruning, under canopy development, spacing plants, repotting, cutting clones, IPM sprays, things of that nature. But when you really lay them out, maybe a dozen, a couple more, a couple less. But we look at that day and we're like, okay, when labor's broken out into a really even perpetual cycle, this is what's happening today. And we start there at a really high level. It might be 3 to 4 tasks, even whether it's a 200,000 square foot facility or a 5,000 square foot facility. All those major tasks do have to happen. And so we start there. It's entering the building is the first thing on the list. The start of the day in the morning meeting is the first item on it, and everyone participates in that with everyone's name next to it. Then you would find those items below it. And the last thing on that whiteboard is always cleaning and the end of day meeting.
Seems like this would be really nice for the employees as they get used to this, the sort of cadence of knowing, okay, we're walking into the building and every single day we're going to have some guidance about where to direct our efforts so that they're not wondering what they should be doing. What kind of things do you think go wrong if somebody's not doing some sort of morning meeting like this?
I think it's the buildings you walk into where you see employees kind of self-supervising, that they run an area or they do a specific task. Oh, this is Joe or Damien that runs the veg area, and he comes in on his own at 9 in the morning and he leaves at 3 o'clock, or she leaves at 3 o'clock, and they just get their jobs done. I think there's a lot of missed training opportunities. It's probably one of the most important things. There's a lot of lost productivity and lost money or quality of growth there as well. A lot of wandering and just not efficient use of time and crop things that relate to growing the crop in a more quality fashion. One of the most important things that we've noticed through managing small groups of people to really large groups of people is a sense of knowing. When employees have a sense of what they're supposed to be doing and what tasks they should be going through in a cadence and moving on to, they're more engaged and more likely to use their time appropriately as well. So something for us that's super important when we fill out that whiteboard, it can seem a little detailed or controlling, but we actually go into each task and it might be, okay, hey, today there's cloning, and then we're also going to be pruning flower bay 3 and these tables. Well, in cloning, we will assign the actual people that are going to be performing the task, and the same with pruning. We'll be assigning that task to those people. And then we have a discussion, and we always start on the positive. I think you can't touch on that enough, is especially with people, is start with the positive things. But we say, hey, last time we were cloning, here's the things we really did successfully. Here's what we really liked out of that experience. But then we also have a discussion, which is a training opportunity, is, well, here's what we should really be watching for, what we'd like to improve upon that happened the last time, and kind of how we're going to accomplish those goals. And then you also open it up for Q&A and asking questions and feedback. And now you have group learning and group sharing as well.
And you mentioned that the day usually ends with a meeting as well to round things out. How does the morning meeting and the day meeting connect together, and what are the differences?
I think the morning meeting is a lot about the building up for the day, giving out the information, aligning the task list, what we're going to be watching for and looking for. The other thing is, when you go through that cadence of those tasks, it's when we should be doing things together, where we anticipate people breaking off and joining up with other tasks. And you actually see that. You'll see where names fall down and go through a flow on the list from task to task. And so it really just sets people up for the day. And then at the end of the day, the last thing is cleaning right before that end of the day meeting. And it just says everyone every single day. And so as you finish your task, the goal is first to finish early, because we're efficient. You know, if we showed up at 7 or 8 in the morning, hopefully we're done by 2:30, 3 o'clock. And at that, well, everyone's just cleaning up respective areas, working together. And there's always a list on the whiteboard of everything that gets cleaned daily, weekly, monthly, and so on and so forth. But really the end of the meeting then is, okay, hey, the place is clean. We'll be happy and proud of how we're going to enter the building in the morning. What didn't we finish? What didn't we feel like we got to? What do we feel like we kind of dropped the ball on? What happened that held us back from getting things done? More of a conversation just about reflecting and debriefing, not always as positive, but more reflective. And no matter what happened today, there's tomorrow, and we're going to start over.
Right. Fresh start the next day, and don't take it home with you too much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's always been a goal with us. Is one thing I've seen in cultivating. You asked the question at the beginning, is what happens when people don't do this or use this tool, is trying to do too much. It's weird to say that, but I think it's an ideology I have and I've shared with a lot of people, is you can absolutely do too much on a daily basis. You should be very organized, know when things happen specific to the plant and the crop, and do it for the crop, not for necessarily yourself. And then try to execute it on those days, and then not do things you don't need to be doing. When people are trying to get ahead on tasks, or, you know, make up for certain things, they're generally not doing it on the best day for the canopy or the crop. It can be costly.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You don't want to be too proactive in a way that shifts the calendar to a non-ideal event date. Yeah.
Well, and too, when people go home at the right time, might be the best way to put it, and they have time with their families and outside of work, they're generally happier and going to work harder when they come in as well, which is another goal of kind of organizing this way each day. And I think this is just a powerful tool for everyone, is kind of coordinating their task list from cleaning and maintenance to the calendar of the facility to just having a real visual whiteboard. But it's something that any operator could adapt. When you're at a scale where there's a group of just 20 cultivators from, you know, people at all different levels of the organization, but they're working with the canopy, and then you have a post-harvest department too that might have, you know, 30 or 40 trimmers, we have seen then it break out into separate meetings by department just due to scale, but then following a very, very similar meeting style at both of them. Everyone's welcome. We're stretching together. We're talking about things, joking around, then jump into the morning meetings and kind of that cadence.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think's the kind of the maximum number of people that can be at a single morning meeting productively?
Probably in the 30 to 40 would be really, really, really stretching it.
Yeah.
20 in the dozen to 2 dozen range is a lot. And I think at certain points, it's where you start to break out from there. These meetings should only take 15 to 30 minutes at most, 15 minutes being a target, 30 minutes being a cutoff. And so if the interpersonal interactions, just based on the size of the group, are going to be prohibitive from that standpoint, I think that would be a consideration.
When you're laying out the day's schedule and the priorities and expectations, sometimes people will have questions about certain aspects. And how much time do you tend to allot for answering people's questions or kind of working through problems in this morning meeting? And I can see how if there was a lot of that in a really big group, it could get way out of hand.
It can get dicey quick. And I'd say seconds versus minutes, 30 seconds to a minute versus long, robust explanations. Someone asked a question about the critique on pruning a mother plant the day before and heading it back or something. It's like, well, hey, Eric, great question. This is the technique we're going to deploy as a group. I want everyone to be on the same page about it. Here's how we cut back and how we're going to do it. Today, when I have a moment, I'm going to break off and come find you, and we'll actually retrain and do some plants together. And so I think right there, you took, 30 seconds, maybe less, to answer the group and the individual. They shouldn't have too much follow-up actually at that point. But now you told them when you're going to come work with them. They're probably going to respect you a lot for doing that as well. And yeah, it's training opportunity, but also a way to just keep things moving.
For somebody who hasn't implemented morning meetings but wants to start, what's one thing they should focus on first if they want to improve the quality of their employees' experiences at work and the plant health and productivity? What's one thing that you would advise them to start with just to get a foot in the door with morning meetings?
Explain to people the goal. I think transparency has been another really big theme for us. So be really transparent. Tell them, hey, I'm going to struggle with this, but here's why we're doing it. No one's doing anything wrong. I want to give you guys more time back, peace of mind, and create flow, a sense of knowing, and just improve positive work culture. Maybe the word transparency is a little too overreaching there, but I think if you explain those things to some people and they didn't buy in, I'd be more concerned about the people I hired. If they didn't want to have a positive work environment, spend more time outside of work, do their jobs better. The one thing is going to happen, and even say Egan, myself, or you have done this for 10 years and have done these morning meetings, every building's unique and you're going to make mistakes, even the most experienced operator. So tell people that, like, hey, this flow is not going to work every time. I'm going to figure it out better. I'm going to figure out how many people it takes to do certain things, how long it takes to walk certain places. Work with me would be another piece of advice. So transparency again. And as long as you can be kind of self-deprecating or laugh it off, it's or just work with it, you finally start to realize, hey, I need 2 people here for this task and 4 for this. And that's what allows me for it to take this amount of time and to go through this flow. But that's one of the hardest aspects of it, but you just kind of got to roll with it at first. A lot of us, including yourself, Egan, we've done these things. We have metrics too that help for this is how long pruning certain amount of square footage should take, even repotting, cutting clones. And they're not perfect, but they're at least starting points. And it scales up. There's always economies of scales, but it's like a lot of things, it's just a really good starting point or a way to build a template.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
That's the other thing actually I recommend too. Coming from an agricultural background in operations, I was never shy to time things either and explain to people. If you don't explain things to people, they're always going to be really uncomfortable. That's a huge point of this whiteboard in the morning meetings is transparency, education, and a sense of knowing. Timing things is one way to really make people uncomfortable without telling them why you're doing it. And it's like, okay, well, explain to people why you're walking around and why you want them to report or write on the whiteboard when they transition between tasks, because then it's going to get you to the end goal quicker.
I see. I have the opposite strategy. I just tell people exactly why I'm going to be timing them, and it's because I'm firing the slowest 25% at the end of the week.
Like,
every time.
We already have the right amount of people here. I just want to make sure we put them in the right. Oh, yeah, I'm always, I'm too optimistic.
No, I hear you.
I feel strongly about some of these topics, especially like this. It's like, well, anyone listening to this, no matter the scale, outdoor, indoor, greenhouse, they could deploy this in their facility.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel the same way about doing like once weekly one-on-ones with like, obviously not with every single person in the facility, but for the people that directly report to you a lot of the time, just for 30 minutes, even just like, it's insane how much that can improve people's productivity in their roles, because people always have, people have like little questions or ideas that come to mind or something like that over the course of the week. And sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're bad, but giving people a direct opportunity to bring up those things like questions, concerns, whatever they may be, and talk through it just seems to do magical things. And it sounds so simple that you're like, there's no way it could work that well, but it actually does. And I think morning meetings are the same way. It sounds so simple. People are like, well, there's no way it could have that big of an improvement on workplace productivity and attitude and all of those things, but it just does.
It really does. I was smiling so big because I couldn't agree anymore. We've always told people, define how often you're going to talk to people and stick to it. You don't have to make empty promises, whether it's quarterly, like you do weekly, or you have a once planned yearly review, but you need to define that and stick to it. The other reason I was smiling so big that we didn't touch on with the morning meetings are exactly what you talked about with clear and open communication is drama. You want to have a seamless operation that doesn't have drama, people talking about wages behind the other's backs, not knowing when they're going to have a review or talk to their boss. Just have transparency about all the things we discussed, and you won't have drama, or you will limit it to some huge percentage or fraction of what you thought you used to have.
Yeah, yeah, it cuts it down by like 90% if you're able to
Yeah.
deal with it in small levels every week rather than letting it build up. Yeah.
But yeah,
That's-
I didn't touch on that. I should have. That drama is it's something that's a very quick ancillary effect that you realize. You're like, wow, people just aren't having these sidebars that they normally would.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.